Well, thank you very much. And I hear this sometimes like, boy, I hate to follow so-and-so because he was so good. That was really great, though. Your talk was really great. Ricardo and I have been talking about microglial cells, and I think you and I are the only two who were talking about it years ago, but I was looking at the brain and you were looking at the spinal cord, and it was just, you've really pulled that whole field together so nicely, and you've just really led this whole area, so just true round of applause for just great, great work. I'm going to try to bring this, he's a few years from now, I think. I think what he was talking about is some really great stuff, and I'm going to bring it back a little bit home to what you're doing today and what's going to be around the corner tomorrow, and thinking about some things on why some of your patients may fail. I always hate getting the complications talk because I think, well, why are they giving me a talk on complications? Do they think I have more experience with that than other things? But in thinking about why we fail, I, of course, am going to have to point to Dr. McHale's work and things like that, because I'm sure all my patients did great. So we're going to talk a little bit about the current state of spinal cord stimulation therapy. I want to dive a little into maybe why they fail, and I think you can build a lot on what has been brought up earlier this morning on DRG and microglial cells, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about A-beta fibers and more traditional fibers. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in measuring electrophysiological recordings of the cord in real time, and how this may lead to improvement in long-term outcomes. I think you'll see today that with all of the various therapies out there, the initial outcomes are relatively similar, but when we start to get out to 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, we seem to lose efficacy. And I wanted to dive in a little bit more detail and give some thoughts about why we may be failing as we get out with our therapies. And then I would normally talk about closed loop, but we've got Dr. McHale here, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the true data on closed loop stimulation. So we're going to take us through that area. So let's talk for a minute about spinal cord stimulation. Who here does SCS? Everybody? Who doesn't? Okay, we got a couple people who don't. Well, spinal cord stimulation has been around, as we mentioned, for over 50 years. First implants went in back right after the gate control theory, all based on the gate control theory, and it became a big part of my practice. And I think part of the reason is we've demonstrated over time that this is better than maximal medication alone. So on the left side is the pluses. Spinal cord stimulation, it works better than opioids, it works better than a repeat operation, and I think that we've kind of established it's being a good therapy. Mitigating morbidity and mortality. I served on one of the subcommittees with Dr. Truscott, who I think is here at the meeting. Oh, there she is, who was on the committee working on neuromodulation or alternative strategies to opioids for the Health and Human Services. And neuromodulation was called out as a therapy that can help with the pain and help avoid opioids. On the other side, on the negative side, some patients don't like the sensation of paresthesia. Some patients it doesn't work on. Some patients we implant a device and we have to take it out at some point in time. I've spent a lot of money. Some patients get an infection. There are all those other things that could occur, but the long-term failure rate in quoted literature is somewhere around 25%. So you see as low as 7%, as high as 44%, a long-term